how do you not nurture those distractions of doubt and unworthiness, all while accepting the yes and this mantle that has been given to you?
Who do we have today?
I think that I have learned to not make my calling about me. What the world is going to see, whoever's watching this transition, this ministry, I think that if they're looking to see how we step into my Father's footsteps, or does the church grow, or I think they're going to miss out on the beauty of what this really is. This requires me to constantly confront the insecurities, trauma that I experienced in church. Oh, this is getting deep.
I wanted something that I could watch that could say, oh, that's really how you identify purpose. Hey, let's talk about the journey.
I always say, but I believe the greatest way to serve is to tell your story, and I'm humbled by the people that have said yes.
With all of that success, you're still responsible for the platform that God has given you.
Sarah, what an absolute honor and privilege it is to sit here with you. Before we get into it, I just want to thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a conduit of hope, for being a light on the hill. Your ministry has truly breathed life into me when there was moments where I was lifeless. You are shifting this generation in ways that I can't even describe. You have impacted my life in more ways than one. So thank you for answering the call. Thank you for being obedient. I know that it is weighty. I know that it is heavy, but your obedience is a ripple effect on millions of lives. So thank you.
Thank you. That's wow. Thank you. I feel like I'm going to have to sit and let that marinate a little bit.
But you need to know that. So, well, we will get right into it. You are a mother, a wife, best-selling author, and now the lead pastors of Potter's House, and the woman that is leading the helm at Woman Evolve. Yeah. Take me back a few years back. When did you know that ministry was a part of your call and purpose on your life?
I feel like I stumbled into ministry. I didn't have this moment where I was like, I'm going to start a ministry. I found out that what I was doing was ministry in hindsight. So I started a blog in 2011. My life was shifting. I was in my first marriage, and I could just tell there was something wrong with me. And I just felt like I'm going to write my way through it. And in writing, it helped me to unpack some of my experiences. And it really was supposed to be my own little journal on the internet. I was writing under that married name. I wasn't using the Jake's name, and I just didn't think it was going to be a big deal. And within like 3 months, it had over 1 million hits. Wow. And people were leaving comments like, this is my story, this is my story. And I would end each blog with like a prayer that I would want someone to pray over me, or some hope or inspiration that I would give someone in my situation. And I realized after a little bit of time, I'm like, I think that this is my own unique form of ministry. Maybe it's not preaching, maybe it's not praying and worshiping, but maybe through words and writing, I could minister to someone.
Yeah. Wow. And now
I thought that would be it.
Right.
And I was fine with that being
right.
It.
And now here we are.
And here we are.
So let's talk about that. You speak about that this is not necessarily the plan that you had for your life.
Yeah.
And I feel like your life trajectory is the epitome of submitting your will to God's will. Yeah. And I know for me and a lot of people, that is hard. That is hard to truly put your desires on the altar and let God do what he wants to do. But transparently speaking, for me, when I did that, when I submitted my will to God's will, the limits came off.
Yeah.
The limits came off, obviously, because he's a limitless God. So pragmatically, what did that look like for you to submit your will to God's will?
Okay, so I hope I can answer this without rambling.
No, go ahead. Give it to us.
Think that part of the reason why I didn't believe that I had any place in ministry is because I had been conditioned to think that ministry looked a certain way.
Come on.
And lives like mine looked a certain way.
Come on.
And so I don't think that we can successfully say what our path should be without acknowledging the preconditioning that makes us believe that paths exist in the first place.
Right.
And so I think that above all, I think seeing my first marriage fall apart, seeing all of my plans fall apart made me no longer trust my own desires. Because if God would have given me what I desired, I would have been in something that wasn't healthy.
Yeah.
I would have become someone who lived in this little box of a life that teen mom should live in.
Right.
And I think there was something about me no longer trusting my desires that made me think, what if I did the opposite of what I want? What if I did the opposite of what I think will make me feel safe, of what I think will make me look strong or courageous, and instead just decided to tell the truth about what I still wanted, and to tell the truth about what I still hoped was true, that I still had worth, that I still had value, that the possibilities were limitless for me. If I really leaned into that, who would I be? And I realized that I started echoing what I believe God wants every believer to have as a part of their philosophies and paradigms, is that with God, nothing is impossible. And so if I am living in a world of what I think is possible for me, given the cards I've been dealt and the choices I've been made, then I am limiting God.
Yeah.
And so I think a limitless existence does require surrendering our schemas of what we think our lives should look like, of what we think we deserve or don't deserve, and saying, God, if I didn't have these experiences, if I didn't have these memories, if I didn't have this family, come from this city, these traumas, what is possible for me?
Oof.
Because when God looks at us, he's not looking at us through the lens of, oh, well, you did this, so you can't do that, so that happened. He's not looking at those things. God is looking at what is possible if we are willing to partner with him. And that partnership is what has changed my life.
Oof. Okay. So why do you think that we always go back to that? Like, well, if I did this, then how can I do that? What do you think is conditioned in us for us to have those perspectives? What needs to be dismantled?
I think other people's opinions. I think what is acceptable in our cultures and communities and families begin to set our expectations.
That's so good.
Even if we move it out of the space of just religion and relationship with God, we can see, even in studying human development, that much of what we think is possible has a pattern. It's a system that has already been set in place. And so when we buy into the system, when we believe that because we came from here, we don't go to college where I'm from, we don't get married, we do get married, like whatever we believe is possible, the world, we conform to the world.
Right.
Before we even volunteer to decide how we're going to conform, the world already comes ready for us to kind of fit into this mold. And it's not until we say, wait a minute, is this what God wants from me? Wait a minute, do I believe that this is what is possible for me, or am I just receiving other people's expectations? I think that that's when we begin to change our lives. I think even in like motherhood and parenting, what kind of wife am I supposed to be? What kind of mother am I supposed to be? I'm not really asking it legitimately. I'm looking at other people's lives and saying, I guess that's who I'm supposed to be.
Yep.
Now I'm trying on someone else's life and trying to be authentic at the same time. And authenticity requires us to really answer that question for ourselves. What is possible for me as a mother? What's possible for me as a wife? Does it align with God's will? And how can I partner with God every day to manifest this version of who I am? I think that those are the questions that we don't often have the time to ask, but that can be a worthy pursuit.
Ooh, you said a lot right there. And I think that is indicative of what our culture is dealing with today, is conforming by the ways of this world and not being transformed by the renewing of our mind, because we're looking at what the Joneses are doing. We're looking at what the next door neighbor is doing. And God's like, you are who you are. I'm calling you to be what I'm calling you to be. Switching gears a bit, you are now the lead pastors at Potter's House. Your dad passed the baton a few weeks ago to you and your husband. And you wrote, first off, what an honor, what a privilege. I can only imagine the weight. I can only imagine what you're carrying. But I know that he has entrusted you with it, and that I know that you can and will do what he's called you to do with this new mantle. And so I just honor you in that. But you penned this beautiful note on social media just about the whole process and the transition. And you were talking about the cost, and you get it now. I get it now, Dad, like the cost of, what this takes. Now that the dust has settled a little bit, that you can able, really to reflect, what does this all mean to you?
The dust is not settled, Mama. We are yet Dorothy.
We haven't
Dorothy.
even started, right?
Where
The
is
dust
Toto?
is still up there.
Okay. Let me see.
How do you feel about it all? Where are you at?
It depends on who I am when I wake up from day to day. How I feel about it. Okay.
Yes.
If I wake up and I am in the highest version of myself, and I've had my worship time, I'm full of the Spirit, I feel an incredible charge to continue to be a vessel, a tool in God's hands for this generation. I feel no need to compare myself to what has been done or to limit ourselves to what has been done. I feel innovation and creativity. I feel anchored in my identity and not the need to perform or be someone I'm not. I feel like I can know what I know and not know what I don't know, and that be okay.
Yeah.
On the lowest days, when
Yes.
I'm not operating in the highest version of myself, I am scared to death of messing it up. And I think messing it up would be just not being qualified enough, not being TD Jakes enough, not being traditional enough, being too feminine, too much of a woman, being too vulnerable, too playful. Like, I think that there are just the spotlight, knowing that some people are watching because they trust what God's doing in my life and trust that they can glean from it, and that other people are watching, waiting to criticize and pick it apart. It makes me want to hide. And you have to understand too, that the whole problem with this thing,
The whole problem. We have a problem with
the whole
this.
problem with this
I'm so done.
is that this requires
Come
me
on.
to constantly confront the insecurities and trauma
Oof.
that I experienced in church, like opening myself up for rejection, opening myself up for criticism, opening myself up for other people to view my journey and to make opinions on it, and knowing that because I'm human, I'm likely going to drop the ball in some way. I don't know how. I'm going to try heaven to make sure that I don't, but I know that just human nature, that I'm going to have some lessons connected to it, and being okay with learning with an audience. That bumps up against all of the things that made me want to hide in the first place.
First off, thank you for your transparency, because I think that we all, regardless of whatever level we are at, we all deal with those human experiences. So take me back. So obviously we're in the moment now, this happened, but I want to go back to maybe a couple months prior. I think that it's the moments before those public moments that make these moments possible.
Yeah.
And as we know, it's a lot of quiet time in our private. It's a lot of yelling at God, talking to God,
Fasting and praying.
fasting, praying, confirming, reconfirming. Are you sure?
Reconfirming.
Are you sure? The doubt creeps in, the unworthiness creeps in, and transparently speaking, that's something I struggle with daily.
Yeah.
So I would love to know from you, before this all, was televised and people knew about it, how do you not nurture those distractions of doubt and unworthiness, all while accepting the yes and this mantle that has been given to you?
I think that I have learned to not make my calling about me. I think that in those moments where I am self-focused, that I can find any number of reasons to disqualify myself. I can be critical by nature, so I can find something wrong. When I think about the people who have been ministered to in some way because of something I said or did, it makes me wonder who else my voice could be used to reach.
Come on.
I don't know that you're supposed to feel worthy of this.
Okay. Unpack that. So, okay, when you hear, affirmations of I am worthy or I am enough, do you feel like that's not the same sentiment of this? Is that what you mean by that?
This is holy work.
Come on. Come on.
This is sacred work. I think if you want to feel worthy to put on your crop top and go outside, like, that's different. You know what I mean? You want to feel worthy to have the right kind of love in your life, that's different. I think that when we talk about what requires us to partner with God to change the world for the better, I don't know that you get to a place of I am worthy of this. I wish I could communicate this in a way that I hope translates to people. I think what I have settled in is I am just dependent on God for this. I don't necessarily want to feel worthy of touching someone else's pain and trauma. I want to feel holy enough to do it.
Come on, Sarah.
I want to
Oof.
feel holy enough. I want to feel pure enough to do it. I think worthy has maybe been used so frequently that it's lost maybe the legitimate definition of it. And so maybe I'm reclaiming my own definition of what it requires to be in work that allows you to touch and transform the lives of others. Worthy to me feels like confidence. It feels like,
Sure.
How do I become bold and courageous enough to do it? And how do I trust that I've got what it takes? How do I worship my way into this? Where I can trust that I have done the things on the inside that allows God to flow through me in any given moment. How do I become holy enough for this?
Wow.
And I think that process of sanctification, of transformation, where I am able to serve what God is doing in the lives of others is more important to me than feeling worthy. I think that God gets to say that we're worthy of it because you paid the price, because you laid your life down. Well done, my good and faithful servant. We may not hear that until we're finished, where God says you did what needed to be done.
Sure.
There have been moments after I preach where I'm just like, that was tragic. I felt
It was never tragic.
I
Right.
felt terrible up there.
Sure.
I felt so vulnerable. I don't know if that made sense. I don't want to hear any clips. But then I asked myself, did you say what God told you to say? Did you align your heart in such a way that God could speak to you? Then you did. Then you were holy enough to step into that moment.
Yeah.
And God can grow you and change you and convict you. But I don't know that I think that that's where the worthy is. It's in the secret time, not in what we need to feel in order to do it.
That freed me. Thank you. Thank you for that.
I hope it made sense.
That made complete sense, because I think, because it is that. It's like, if we are doing God's work, as we decrease, he increases in us. Have we prepared? Have we laid ourselves prostrate at the altar? Are we praying in our quiet time in our closets? Are we truly fasting? That is where, what you're saying, that is the work. You know what I mean? It's not memorizing. Yes, I need to be prepared, but am I prepared? Am I aligned? Am I in position to hear clearly? And so that's so good, sis.
Thank you.
All right, I want to read this, going back to your post that you made, and you said this: I selfishly wish you'd keep going forever so I could be daddy's little girl and stay hidden behind your shoulders. But God's called me to stand on them instead, talking about your dad. How would you describe those shoulders that you're standing on?
Broad. They are broad shoulders. They are resilient. They are strong. My father's a workhorse. He just is. If you understood fully where he came from and where God has trusted him to move, he had to become someone to do that. And though we experienced, some abandonment and rejection because he threw all of himself into it, I also recognize that because he did that way, that I get to learn how to do it a different way, that because he cleared so much of the path, that maybe my children won't have to have some of the experiences that we had, but he was willing to pay whatever the price was to follow this voice. And I balance that by saying he also came from a generation where, like, we weren't talking about gentle parenting and being present with your children.
We are now.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
so, like,
totally.
his dad had to work. He was a
Right.
janitor. Like, working was not damaging to children,
Sure.
right? And so I think that we had some moments throughout the transition that no one could have anticipated being that difficult. But I also realized that he had some moments in the transition that he couldn't have anticipated. Being on the cover of Time magazine, sitting with presidents. He was digging ditches in West Virginia.
Come on.
And so to be able to trust that you could add value in those rooms, to study yourself so that you could show up in spaces with kings and queens and represent the kingdom, I can only imagine the pressure, because I feel a pinch of it now, and I had him as a model and example. Those shoulders have scars on them.
Oof.
You know, they have scars on them. And they're strong, but my dad's going to be 70 in a couple years.
Yeah.
And I think it is unfair for anyone who has been blessed and touched and transformed by his ministry to ask him to continue to sacrifice his life when he's at a stage where he wants to lean into having a different type of life.
Facts.
And he wants to have support, and he trusts what God is doing in another generation.
Sure.
And so I wish he trusted someone else.
But child, he trusted
But for
you.
some reason,
Oh, but we know. We
no,
know.
I trust God, and I trust my Father and the Father.
Right.
You know, with what they see. I know, but you know,
It's
here
so
we are.
real.
I just everything's
given a lot.
fine.
Yeah.
It is.
I want to prophesy in this room about the God I know. I can't tell you about Buddha. I can't tell you about Allah. But baby, I can tell you something about Jesus.
And it's okay. I mean, we talked about it in the green room about reluctant leadership. Like it's a real thing. Go into it.
No, well, because you know what I think it is for me too, is I am very responsible. I don't sign up for things that I don't feel like I can finish.
Right.
And I don't show up for things that I don't think I can do well. And this is a lane in an area where I do have uncertainty in my ability for longevity. You know what I mean? Like, God, you're going to give me something to say every week.
Right. You have to prepare every week.
Every week.
I actually thought about that this morning. As I was getting ready, I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, I know what it takes for me to prepare for moments like this, but I can only imagine. But of course he is.
Right?
We know,
Right?
of course.
He's
but
done it
still,
for everyone else.
But you're human.
I am.
Yeah.
You know, and can I withstand, you know, the public pressure and opinions? And so it requires me to not lean into those things. It's just work. It's a lot of inner work. And so I think that for me, the reluctant leadership has a lot to do with me just not trusting my own strength.
Yeah.
And which means that I have to depend on God's strength.
Yep.
Which is exhausting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because it's a constant it's a constant dying to self daily.
Well, and then God knows things about my muscles that I don't know. It's like a personal trainer giving you added weight. It's like, oh no, I'd rather take the 10s. And they're like, no, you need to level up to the 20s. And like, but the 10s,
is what
that's
I
where
want.
I thrive.
Yes.
That's where I thrive.
So let's talk about leveling up.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what comes with leveling up. I mean, you could talk about this experience or even prior. I know that we go from glory to glory and the evolution of you and your ministry. And I think a lot of people don't realize when we level up, to much is given, much is required.
For sure.
And there's a lot of things that we have to undo. There's a lot of things we have to unbecome. There's a new identity, like you spoke about, that we need to grab a hold on. I know for me, there was a lot of weight that I was carrying. There was a lot of people pleasing that I had no idea was a stronghold that I was dealing with. I was so focused on pleasing man as opposed to pleasing God, and not really being able to sustain the new level because I'm doing things out of order. So for you, what are those certain things maybe that you wrestle with when it comes to that you have to either undo or unbecome? What's the new identity that you have to grab a hold of?
The word that comes to mind is just surrender. Being willing to lay any and everything down. My time practices, my mentalities, my idea of what I think, you know, I'm supposed to look like or an outcome is supposed to be. I always think that the best way to go from one level to the next level is through vulnerability.
That's good, Sarah.
It's so different because I feel like there's this need for us to move from one level to the next with like defiance and boldness and courage. And I think that works for some people. And I think eventually I get there, but I'm a little bit more of a crock pot. I have to start with acknowledging that I don't feel prepared, that I'm nervous, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I think that people have to be able to hold those two truths. Like, just because I don't necessarily feel like I have what it takes doesn't mean that I'm not going to throw everything I have at it. Just because I don't necessarily know if I'm qualified doesn't mean that I'm not going to do everything I can to become qualified.
That's so good.
And so I have to acknowledge that this feels bigger than me. This feels beyond what is possible for me. So God, what do you want to change in me for this opportunity?
Oof. And what do you think he wants to change in you?
Oh, the list is very long. No, I think that I really do feel like God is calling me to a space of really trusting him and trusting what he has shown me about myself. I think that, oh, this is getting deep. I think that it was easier for me to believe negative things about myself than it was for me to believe anything good. And because it's easier for me to believe something negative, when God says, and I have felt and heard God affirm me, like, you've got this. I'm going to be with you. I'm going to take care of you. And I don't trust it.
Yeah.
I don't trust it the way that I know you need to trust it. But I keep putting myself, I don't let my distrust keep me from moving into the space of obedience. And each level is an opportunity for me to learn more about who God is and more about what God wants to show me about his character and mine. I think what the world is going to see, whoever's watching this transition, this ministry, I think that if they're looking to see how we step into my Father's footsteps, or does the church grow, or I think they're going to miss out on the beauty of what this really is. I think the beauty of what this really is that we are courageous enough to allow someone intimate access and an intimate perspective into us learning who God is and God showing us who we are in a way that requires vulnerability.
Yeah.
But I got to trust. I really could afford to trust the good things that God sees in me.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing that. And I resonate with that more than I would like to admit, about believing the negative things more about myself than the positive. And I think for me, it's a comfort thing.
Yeah.
It's a comfort thing. Like, well, if I just believe this over here, then I won't let anybody down over there.
Yeah.
My expectations have been lowered just for the sake of. Thank you for sharing that.
It's like protection, you know?
Yeah.
Some people get hurt and they stay away from like walking on that broken ankle. And then there are some people who like try to put weight on it because maybe I'll just get used to the pain. So I inflicted a lot of pain on myself because I just felt like this will keep it from hurting if someone else says it to me. So if I can beat myself to the punch, if I can pick myself apart, if I can talk bad about myself, when someone else says it, they'll just be echoing the voices that I heard in my head already. Like, you think that's bad, you should hear what I really think about myself, or I've said worse to myself. Yeah. And that level of preparation makes us resistant to affirmation. So now no one, not even God himself, can say, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. And I love you. And I've called you for such a time as this. You don't trust that because it's easier to trust the negativity. And so I'm having to change my mind about what protection is and what love and goodness is, that it's not performance, that it's not achieving, that it's literally just being.
Oof. It's the being before the doing.
Yeah.
It's the being before the doing. You just said a whole bunch that's going to set a lot of people free, and myself as well. So thank you. All right, switching paths. Let's talk about order.
Okay.
As we know, God is a God of order.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think of order, I think of marriage, motherhood, and then work. And then whatever, purpose-filled stuff out in the marketplace. How do you stay in order? And what is the danger of being out of order?
First of all, that question you just asked me.
I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
I will transparently say this. Whenever I start thinking about womanhood and order, there's a part of me that cringes a little bit.
Okay, tell me.
Because I do think that there are so many systems that have been set up to put women in an order that God never intended for her to be in. So I get a little concerned when I hear the word order as it relates to womanhood, because I think that the abuse of power has repositioned the woman out of order. So if we talk about out of order.
Couldn't agree more with that.
I think that
that's two separate things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, having said that, I do think that there are times and seasons where we have to be willing to disrupt the order. But I think they have to be seasonal.
Okay.
So right now, I'm with you. My husband's got a conference that he's planning this week. My children are back home. But this part of my life requires it to take precedent. I think that maybe our best advice to women is making sure that there is a smooth sea before you set your sails into the direction of your destiny when you're responsible for other people.
Great word.
So my marriage, my children, my faith, my wellness is the sea that my purpose must sail on.
Ooh, say that one more time.
It's just flowing, so here we go.
Here we go, because that was it right there.
My marriage, my children, my ministry, this is the sea that my purpose must sail on. And so if these things are not well, then my purpose is not going to be well. I could truck through anyway, but I just have to know that there's going to be some water on the boat. I may get tossed over and things may not be well at home. And so for me, I have to have the sea be set properly. And so for me, that's, are you good? Are you good? This is what I need. This is what I'm about to do. So I need you to be prepared for this transition and shift to happen. And so by creating an atmosphere for the purpose, recognizing that my family is a part of the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And so when if the atmosphere isn't set, I can't move. So my daughter called me last night. She's got a cavity feeling that she was bleeding and pain. And I'm like, I may have to get on a plane. Right. She woke up this morning, she was fine. But just recognizing that, I can't function unless they're good.
Yep.
And so I do think that when it's all said and done, you got to remember, I have an example of what it costs to put a boat on a rocky boat, or to put a boat on a rocky sea.
Yep.
I got pregnant at 13 years old. You know what I mean? My siblings and I went through all kinds of things that never made headlines. Some of them did. So I know what it's like to truck through purpose at the expense of your family suffering in many ways. And so for me, there's no New York Times bestselling book. There's no stadium. There's no president. There's no king that is worth what I know that feels like. And so I'm just unwilling to pay that price, which was the hardest part of the succession with Dallas. I'm just like, God, if I have to do it that way, I can't pay that price. Because I paid it already, and I don't want them to have to pay it. My dad didn't know that that's what the cost was going to be, but I do know. So I'm making a more informed decision than he had the luxury to make. Yeah. And so with this informed decision, I get to choose whether or not that's the price I'm willing to pay, and I just can't do it.
Yeah.
I just can't do it. And so I think that as we are setting our sights, and I think women should be ambitious, I think that we have ideas and creativity that add value to spaces where there has been male-dominated voices. I think about women in church. 70% of most churches are made up of women, especially in Black churches. And yet Black women in leadership has been few and far in between as it relates to women in the pulpit. And so I do think that there's an opportunity for us to add perspectives about Mother's Day, perspectives about analogies with pregnancy that men may never think about. We do add value in those spaces. So we need women in those rooms. But we also have to make sure that we are charging women and men with making sure that we're also taking care of home and our families, because no one ever asked men, how are you prioritizing your family? It's okay for them to do this, but it's not okay either. And so I think we have to reset a lot of those thoughts and philosophies.
So good. Okay, lastly, a few more. And a lot of your ministry and sermon work, you talk a lot about generational curses. You talk a lot about breaking them. And I think that, raising your hand, are you the one to break the curse in a lot of your family? And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of dying to self. What is, if there's somebody else on the other side of this that knows that God has called them to break whatever curse that may be, what are the pragmatic tools that you can give them?
I would say identify what the curse is. A lot of times what we're calling the curse is really just a symptom of the curse. So I've heard people say, like, maybe I'm going to end teen pregnancy in my family bloodline. Well, teen pregnancy is a symptom, but what really produced this? Were, your parents able to be present? Were there lower socioeconomic statuses that allowed them that forced them to be at work when no one was home with you? Like, what was the actual cause of this specific issue? And so if we can identify what the curse is, then we can say, how do I not just break, because we want to break it off for ourselves and them at the same time. How do I focus on breaking that off of me right now? Like, why are academics important for me? Not just because it's going to make me have some letters behind my name, but I want to be able to create a better stability for my family so that I can be present, so that I can avoid some of these outcomes, to really draw those parallels and lines for yourself, and to trust that you demonstrating another way of being is curse breaking. Because you can't,
say that one more time.
Demonstrating another way of being is curse breaking. That we don't necessarily have to teach other, hey, we got to break this together, or hey, we don't do that anymore. We got to break this generational curse. If you can allow yourself to rest in a new way of taking care of your body, a new way of thinking, a new way of loving and communicating for yourself, not with the need to influence other people, but this is my truth, and this is how I want to walk it out. You would be surprised how just seeing something different, being exposed to something different, is enough to influence the people who are watching you to see another path.
That's so good. Ooh, that's so good. What legacy do you hope to leave?
I pray that my legacy is that you can maintain authenticity in every stage of your life, that authenticity is not necessarily consistency, but authenticity is giving yourself permission to be where you are and who you are at any given moment, and trusting that from that place of authenticity, that God can change you, touch you, transform you, and that other people can feel you, because what's from the heart reaches the heart. And so I pray that people live open-heartedly because of something that they saw me say or do.
Yeah. How can we support you on this next leg of your race?
Pray for me, child. Pray for me, child. She is stressed. Pray for me. If you got a fake account, you may need to clap back. No. Pray for me.
Oh, God, it's so real. It's so real. What's the weight that you feel?
I don't know if I'm delusional, because like sometimes I feel weight and then I'm just like, it ain't nothing. Right. I got this. It ain't nothing. Right. Yes. I will beat my chest in a minute. Okay. I feel the weight of cutting through the noise of this generation with truth that is relevant, tangible, instantly applicable, and transformative. The real weight of what I feel is, how do I say something about God? How do I lead people to Jesus in a way that doesn't make them feel judgment before love?
Ooh, come on now.
How do I make the love of Jesus just so undeniable that transformation just feels organic? Like it's just easy.
Yeah.
I am concerned that if we don't give them a real Jesus, that they're going to settle for counterfeit versions of wholeness
Yeah.
that just leaves them empty.
Yeah.
And so I want to make it make sense to this generation with my experiences and the language, and I need other people to make it make sense for them, right? I don't think that this is my exclusive responsibility, but if God's going to trust me with influence and platform, my prayer is that I put Jesus on display in such a way that makes people think like that was not her at all. It was only him. And I wonder what he could do in my life too.
Yeah. And guess what? You're doing it.
Mm.
You are doing it.
Thank
You
you.
are truly, like I said, a light on a hill. And God has chosen you for such a time as this. And what an honor and a privilege. Thank you so much for trusting me with this conversation. Thank you for just continuing to say yes to the call. We got you covered. Go forth, woman of God, and just do all the things. And guess what? Like you said, do it afraid. Do it afraid. Do it afraid. Because you got it. You got it. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. Your light, your voice, this platform matters. I see the intersection you live in. I understand how necessary it is to stay in the tension of that intersection and how much responsibility is connected with it. You're doing a phenomenal job of making God look good and real and relatable, and also drawing people who may not ever come to church, who may not ever be willing to listen to a sermon. You're bringing the platform right to them, the altar right in their home. So thank you so much for what you're doing as well.
Oh, thank you, sis. I received
pleasure.
that. Oh, so